Now, a few years ago, was that 20? Just after COVID, that's 2020, right? Sorry, 2021, rather, 2021, as the whole world was re-emerging. Now, I got in contact with a friend of mine who is not in the country, all right? And then she was beleaguered and vexed. I was like, you were in a much better place, in a manner of speaking. As regarding education, where you send your child to, for example, is free. It's free, and your child is likely going to be at least 3 or 4 years ahead of my child when my child starts school. So what exactly is the problem? And then she says this, that her and her husband are having a big fight about the child's education because she was opposed to the child starting school early. How early are we talking about? Well, the child at that time was about 3.5 years old. Now, the father wanted the child to start school immediately. She said no, that she would like to have the child be at least with her at home because she works from home, all right? So she can monitor the child, and then maybe when the child gets to 5, then they can start. When the child gets to 5, then they can start taking the child to all the various schools, and all the whatnots and whatnot. And then he said no. Now I don't know. I've not spoken to them since, so I don't know what they resolved. But I went online and I got a very interesting piece, and this was on Punch newspaper. And he says, I'm quoting Dr. Grace Adejowon from the Department of Psychology, Faculty of Social Science, University of Ibadan, or your state. Right now, Dr. Grace said that ideally school age should be 5 years, but could be extended to 6 years. Now, she is an expert of developmental psychology, noted that the enrollment of children in school before the age of 5 was responsible for the noticeable problems in education. Now, stop, rewind, let's get to where we are at this moment. My question to you, very straightforward, is at what age or ages should children be in school? Whether it's primary, secondary, or university. I think I was probably one of the last generation. We got into secondary school at the age of 13. Now, the trend decided to change at that time because when I got into GSS1 at 13 years of age, there was somebody who was already, I think it was GSS3, SS1, right? Who was 13 as well. The person was my age mate. And as boarders, we started to see the very clear signs. Those who were in his class started to protect him because they found out, or they realized that everybody knew that this guy, this so-called senior, is my age. I'm in GSS1, but this guy is in GSS3 or SS1. And so he will move in groups, gangs, whatever it is you want to call them, posses, his clique, so that people wouldn't bully him. And he started to bully other people. Now, I don't know if that can be termed as a developmental problem, but it was a problem because by the time he was in university, listen, at 13, he was in GSS3 or SS1. So by the time he was 16, he was in year 1. Year 1. Those of us who were 16 were still in secondary school. And, the rest, as to say, is history. But I am not personally opposed to having a child start early. If you are a fan of TV sitcoms, you may have seen this one. It's called Young Sheldon. It chronicles the life of a genius child, emphasis on the word genius child, who got into university before he had one strand of beard. So before he was even 12, he was in college. He had finished high school. That's secondary school. By that time, he was 12. But the problem, oh yes, they were. The question is, where do you stand currently with your child? 017-923-0002, 0817923-3007, 0817923-0002, 0817923-0007. At Nigeriainfo PH, at Nigeriainfo PH is where you find us on Facebook and on X.
The views and opinions shared on this program do not represent the position of Nigeriainfo FM. Nigeriainfo, let's talk.
And now, hello Port Harcourt with Jude on 92.3 Nigeriainfo.
All right, we'll go straight to the phone lines. As an interesting some message I've just dropped, we start off with Zion, who is in GRA. Zion, morning to you. Welcome to the program.
Yeah, Jude, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome, please.
In then, our parents adopted the skill that your arms must cross your ear to the other side before you can start primary one. Let's be honest to ourselves. What age was that? 3 or 4 years.
Thereabout. For some tall people, maybe even 3 years. Some short people, maybe no.
Jude, it's not even tall whichever. When you get to that age, your hand must touch your ears. It's a must. It's not tall or short. Look at the adaptation of our parents. Very easier and cool. Ancient knowledge. Now we are not talking about the ideal age. Of course, 5 years is ideal, right?
That's what the psychologist said.
Let me tell you the problem with that ideal age. That ideal age did not capture the kind of children that have been born to the families in our today world. The kids we give birth to today, my brother, they are hypersensitive. They are children that even at the age of 0, give them the phone, they know that phone is to make call. 2 or 4. Who taught them that? Who taught that child that thing? So the ideal age of 5 you are talking about now is not even applicable. As long as the child can now whisper, that is what we now have what to call crèche. The reason of this education system so that they don't grow in the society of vulgar words, to become abusive, helpless, or senseless. We now bring them to an environment for education, crèche, pre-nursery. They now start dealing with letters, dealing with numbers. You are now forming them to understand that there are kids. My brother, before I leave the floor, have you seen these kids in their mathematical debates being hosted by this organization? Most of us are mathematicians. Let's tell ourselves the truth. These kids are smarter than us now.
So the earlier the better.
The earlier the better.
Okay, the earlier the better. JJ, very quickly. 5 years, 7 years. When should you send a child to school? Very quickly.
No years.
No school.
It depends on the circumstance you're facing at that material time. Youth. I go out to work. My wife also work. And you carry baby like a handbag from one place to another. My last daughter started school less than 1 year.
Huh?
Although crunchy or whatever, pre-nursery and all those. Because we don't need to begin to hold baby like walking stick and be moving from one place to another. So you now keep her in one place and do your things. When you come back, you pick her up and you move on. So if you're waiting for age at this age time, dude, you will miss it all. But everybody should be allowed to develop at their own pace. If your baby is good and he can do university, why not?
Okay, all right. I'll tell you more stories when we return.
You are tuned in to
Nigeriainfo.
We'll be right back after this.
Port Harcourt City.
Introducing the first of its kind in Nigeria.
The first radio just for kids. It's here at 101.7 Kids FM Lagos.
Are you serious?
Oh, yes.
It's going to be fun for kids on your airwaves 24/7.
Talking about from exciting names
Check.
to juicy gist
Double check.
and great music.
Super check.
All these and more on your number one PlayStation 101.7 Kids FM.
Don't be the last to join the train. Download the Kids FM app on iOS or Play Store today.
And listen to Kids FM anywhere in the world.
Stay tuned on the go.
You can stream on our website at kidsfm.ng. And guess what? Kids FM is coming to your city real soon. So watch out because it's going to be more fun on your airwaves.
So tune in and
It is raining. I heard it rained in Bonny last night into this morning. I don't know if it's raining now in Bonny. I don't know if it's raining in Ahoda or in LMA, but the prediction is we are expecting rain today. So good luck as you move around, and please tell us how the rain is affecting your area throughout the course of this program. But whilst we are on that, we're also talking about ages. Now, a few years ago, some people were very surprised when, it was released that a teenager had just bagged his doctorate degree. A teenager, let me say that again, a teenager bagged his doctorate degree. Now, my last caller says, look, let's not hold the child back because, hey, if the person can, then he should. But once again, we are now juxtaposing this. Maybe there's going to be new information, maybe in another 5 years or 10 years' time. But the information available as at the middle of this decade, right? Into this latter decade, talking about, 2016 up to 2020 to 2024, suggests that children fare better when they go into formal education from age 5. Doesn't mean that when they are home, you cannot teach them. But we're talking about sending them to school when they get formal education. So let's say you start the child out at, let's say, pre-nursery or let's say nursery at 5 years, all right? So by the time the child is 10, right, the child's probably doing, primary 4, primary 5, right? And then, in this country, we're already talking about writing your first school leaving certificate examination that will take you into GSS 1, right? Now, if a child gets into school, secondary school at 11, right? It means then 6 years. In this case, these days, some of you are now doing 5 years. Some of you are even doing 4 years. So by the time the child is in SS1, SS2, some of you are now enrolling your children to write SSCE and all the other examinations, which has led JAM to say, look, we don't want people less than 18 coming through. And it's met with some opposition. But there are pros and cons to these things, one would assume. Now, the last caller, I think she says, look, if the child is good, don't hold the child back. That in this day and age, if you do, you may miss it. But beyond just academic excellence and academic brilliance, there's also the societal issue. The fact that psychologically, that child may not be mature for the space that you're sending the child to. If we have, for the past, half a century or century, did it fit to only allow 18-year-olds, or at the least in parts of the United States, 16-year-olds drive motor vehicles, it then means that there should be something that must be said about how soon a child should get into quote-unquote formal education. We have stories, and I'm sure some of you are listening to us probably have lived this experience. We have stories of young people getting into the adult space, talking about the campuses of the Nigerian universities, federal universities in particular, before they were 17. In fact, if we're being honest, and I'm going to try my best to be very civil and honest here, I knew, and I'm sure some of you knew, young girls who got into school, talking about university, when they were 17 or 18. And then, as hormones were raging, as freedom was being expressed, they fell in love, young love. And then problems started. So you had some girls who were on campus those days who could not bear to be, quote unquote, single for too long. 17, hot cake, all the boys after you break up with James. After you break up with James, Stanley comes, you break up with Stanley because Stanley was looking at Tinuke, she's not happy. There's a lot of emotional formation that ought to have happened before that child, before that young person was brought into the mature adult state, the state that is tertiary education. But let's not forget, the same thing can be said about children who get into secondary schools, like one I just made mention, before they were mature enough. The question is, what exactly is the definition of maturity? I'm going to leave that question to you.
The views and opinions shared on this program do not represent the position of Nigeriainfo FM. Nigeriainfo, let's talk.
Well, Braid is speaking to us from here. Well, Braid, good morning to you.
Good morning, my brother.
Welcome, please.
Yes. For me, the age limit that the minister comes out with, for me, it doesn't go down well with me.
Interesting.
Yes. You know, we're in a globalized world, that the children are no longer analog. The days of analog are gone. How do you look at their peers in the Western world? Should we always drag our own backward? They should be able to compete with their counterparts at the Western world. In those days when we were small, we cross our hand on our head. If your hand could not reach your ear, they will not admit you in the school. But today, there is crash. Mothers are very busy. Within a year, they send the child to kindergarten, and the child starts from there. Before the child gets to 5-6 years, the child has already graduated from the nursery, and the child gets to the primary. Sometime by 10-11 years, the child is off from the primary school. Are you going to deny that child who has did very well at the secondary school, coming out maybe 15 years or 16 years? You are denying that child, very vibrant child. You are denying that child admission because the child is not up to 18 years.
Fine, but Braid, apart from the chronological maturity, which is 18, right? We know that some children are 14, 16, they look like they're already 20 because how big they are, or maybe how intelligent they are. But the question is, psychologically, are they that developed? There's a reason why governments all across the world say 16, 18 to drive a car. If that is being clearly established, what's wrong with restricting people for coming into tertiary spaces or even primary schools?
By Nigerian constitution, no child is supposed to handle steering without 18 years. It's in the road traffic law. But what I'm saying is that the children, they are okay psychologically. Psychologically, they are okay.
Are you sure?
The minister should not bring up something that is going to take away their fundamental human rights.
Okay.
The children also have fundamental human rights. That look, I am up to this age. I can go to school and I can do it better. So why deny that child?
Muriel is on the line. Muriel, good morning to you, please.
Thank you, Jude. Good morning.
Good morning.
Jude, the problem with our country is because of that our leaders, the modern leaders, they stopped reading. They don't read. Most times, even the newspapers they read, people read for them and explain to them. They don't develop their mind further. If not, how can you in this time try to restrict children, to a particular age where they should be learning? You restrict them, you keep them. In other words, the mind should not develop until a particular age.
Mira, let me interject. Mira, please, let's get this clear, right? We're talking about formal education. So that means where you send the child to school. Now, isn't it possible, and I know some mothers will call in probably some and agree, isn't it possible that whilst before the child gets to even primary one, the mother or the father is already teaching the child something? People get educated even before they get into formal spaces. So these formal spaces what we're talking about, should there be that restriction?
There shouldn't be, Jude. There should be no restriction. Now, trust me, except you want to homeschool your child, then go and get all the necessary gadgets, that the school should have. But the formal training in the home is quite different from what you learn in school.
True.
Now, in the school, trust me, good, even a child that has not started talking, there is a way in crèche they teach them. A child that you put in crèche early, you might say, okay, as a mom, because of stress, because of time, you want your child there and to give you time to work. But trust me, that child has started learning in crèche. Do you know that even in that space, that little crèche, they have alphabet, they have letters. They start showing the child this, and they start sounding it. This sound begin to echo in the mind and brain of these children. There's one video I watched. A little child pronouncing what? That child has not started talking. But the child is that their little state of, pronouncing little things. That child has started pronouncing words. When the child missed the word, I don't know if I'm the only child, the child goes back, and looks back at the other one and brings it back and was marveled. We shouldn't restrain them. Train your child formally in the house the way, it is quite different from the school environment. So we shouldn't. Not for time, I would have talked about homeschooling. There was a mother that came online, was it last year, and said she homeschooled that child at the age of 12 after that finished secondary school. Everything, and she wanted to enroll the child in senior YX. And there was a debate about it. Dude, homeschooling is quite different from formal home training.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
You should take your child so that your child, when they go out in that space, they will not depart. Even if they might deviate a bit, that home training, will restrict them a bit.
Miro, I totally understand that narrative. I totally understand that narrative. But the question is, if you send a child, it's just like when you give a child a weight that's too heavy for it. Yes, the child may look strong. After a while, it causes damage, which is what the psychologists are saying. I totally get it. Hello. I totally get the narrative that, yes, the child and children these days are learning at a pace never seen before in the history of humanity. But because of the advancement of technology, should we then forget that biology has a big role to play? I just told you stories about people who come into the university space. Yes, academically, they are sound. But what about psychologically? What about mentally? What about an individual who gets into university, passes the exams, first year, no problem, no carryover. Then something happens in the second year. Maybe the father dies, maybe the mother dies, or maybe he or she gets heartbroken, like it was. They gave him, bam, collect better breakfast. And then he's on the bed. Oh, Cynthia, I hate you. Why you do this to me? And I go and write exam and I fail. But because we're in Nigeria, nobody's caring about my mental health. They don't know I'm getting depressed because Cynthia broke my heart. And I'm just 14 years of age. Donatus is not a judge. Donatus, good morning to you.
Good morning, Mr. Jude.
Good morning. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I've got to the discussion this morning. You see, this is our country. We live what are supposed to chase and chase other things. Tell me, if a child finished a secondary school at 15 years or 16, as case may be, and you say he or she should not enter into a tertiary institution, what does that child do this period of 2 years?
Good question.
What will the person be doing? Is it not another way to create nuisance in the street? Maybe that child, if not told properly, maybe we enter into the street and be doing other things before waiting for the time to enter into a tertiary institution. So you see, this Minister for Education has not gotten it right.
But Donatus, we also know children who get into school and they still join the street gangs, even though they're in school. How do they join into secret cults and gangs? It's still inside the school.
Yes, but they said Adoman is a devil workshop. I don't know if you understand.
Fair enough.
That period, that person is out of school. What do you think that person will be doing? So if you engage the person into a school, and when you finish secondary or tertiary institution, within that period, you are engaged in something. Not being out of school, doing what? Waiting for
when you get to the age of taking a jump before you can be admitted. So that's the way I look at it, my brother. I don't know. I don't buy the idea of what the minister just said.
Oh, all right. Emmanuel is speaking to us from Ngboba. Emmanuel, good morning to you, please.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. Welcome.
Yeah, my only contribution is that the problem we have in Nigerian education system is parents have refused to do their own responsibility when it comes to the development of a child. Because before a child will go to school, he or she must pass through parental training that will enable him to mature, to be able to fit into either primary school or secondary school. Even if you take a child from pre-nursery or 1 year old, teach him to pronounce it, that does not mean that he's mentally fit. But because we are so busy, some of us who, that we want to take them there, we're only keeping them there to enable us go to work and do our journey. That does not mean that child is fit. During my university days, I know one or two of my classmates that got admission. Do you know that, Jude, when we are discussing, they find it difficult to mingle among their classmates. I presume that guy wasn't up to 15 years when he got that admission. Yes, academically he was sound, he got admission, but mentally he wasn't fit. So my own suggestion is that if the Nigerian government say 18 years, the reason why they say 18 years, no child at the age of 18 years that will be intimidated anywhere in the university. Okay, if he said that child is well intelligent, why is it that a child of between 1 year to 12 years, you are afraid to keep him in the house to go to work? You want somebody that is age enough to stay in the house so that you are afraid that he won't be able to take care of himself in the house. It means that you are telling yourself that this child is not well developed.
It's not well developed, yeah.
And you are saying that it is mature to take him to university where everybody is there 50, 60, 100 years are there. You are taking a 15-year-old child to go and compete with them in the number of education or what. So for me, 18 years is okay because at that age, a child is well developed to confront whatever challenge that comes to him or her. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's Emmanuel from Ngboba. We have Jeffrey from RSU standing by, but let's get to hear from Lawson, and then I get to read your message on WhatsApp. Lawson, good morning to you.
Good morning, Jude.
Good morning. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm listening to the program here. Yes, one thing I observe when it comes to education and the development of a child in our country is that we are very slow to accept changes.
Okay.
Sometimes these changes come back and forth, and we keep on moving that way. Children develop at different rates, and nobody can say no to that. And let's take backwards 100 days of our mothers. And we were told that at the age of 2, 3, children have been betrothed, and they were started training them on how to become an adult wife. And it worked for them at that time. At 14, the child is even married. Though I don't subscribe to that. That was very tender so much. Now, if that could have survived at that primitive age when there is no knowledge as we have it today, now tell me why a child who is 14, 15 years should not be in senior secondary or in SS3. I don't see any reason. You understand? Yes, the government date time is 18, and I agree that the government should set up a time limit. That time is supposed to be a limit. It's supposed to be supposed to check the differences in a child. And as we are moving at a fast pace, I still expect the government someday to come down to make it 16 years.
Okay.
Because at 12, at 13, so many children are mentally strong, physically developed, and intellectually sound to face humanity. And those who are not should be allowed to develop. And again, Jude, we all will agree with me that mentally strength comes from exposures and experiences. And these exposures can be gotten only outside. A child who grows within the confines of his family at 50 may not even have much to say.
Jeffrey, good morning. Hello,
good morning.
Good morning, Jeffrey.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Jude.
Welcome.
Okay, I want to say something concerning the discussion this morning. I know there are concerns of what will a child do when he finishes secondary school by the age of 15, 16,
under 18, yes,
till he gets to the right age to get into the university. But these things start education. Normally, there are ages to enter into different classes. If a child gets into school at age 3, age 4, and go through the normal process, when it gets to the right age to enter into the university, the child to take the JAMB exam and get into university, the child will be of the age. But if the child maybe does not pass JAMB the first year, and
Okay. Oh, sorry, Jeffrey. We have to go on a break, please. Sorry.
The show continues after this break on Nigeria Info.
Hooray!